Hi, my name is Kelly Cheatham. I'm a digital learning specialist for Fort Worth ISD. In this tips and tricks video, we're going to talk about some of the greatest things about Google Slides, especially when trying to create interactive activities for your students, or even when transforming a paper pencil worksheet into something digital. So there are three main tips we're going to talk about today. Two of them have to do with how to lock down the background so that your students cannot manipulate certain items on the slide. And then our last tip is going to talk about how to change the size of the slide so that it might fit with perhaps a paper pencil worksheet. So we're going to get started today in looking at those background features. The first tip I'm going to talk about is how to set the background by inserting a picture as the background. So kind of bear with me there. So the first thing you want to do is set up the slide, particularly the pieces that you don't want students to be able to move. So for example, if you are doing some sort of sorting activity and you want to set up those categories on your slides, those are pieces you don't want your students to be able to then move later on. So I'm going to go ahead and mimic that right now. So I'm going to create just two different categories that my students are sorting into. And I like to use shapes for this. And you can go ahead and format those shapes however you want. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and get one of them set up the way I want, and then I can go ahead and duplicate that for my other one. So I'm going to move kind of quickly through these steps, and then I'll show you the important step of then locking down that background. So in this case, I think my sort is going to be all about living and non-living things. Oops. So I'm going to go ahead and just name my category here. So this one is going to be for living. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that so that I have one for non-living as well. Okay. All right, and I could go ahead and add further things to the slide, but we're going to go ahead and pretend like this is exactly how I want it, and this is what I want my background to look like. So I've set up the slide, I've added all of the pieces that I'd like locked down. The next step is to actually download this slide as an image file. So we're going to download it as a JPEG. To do that, you go up into your File menu, and you're going to come down to where it says Download. You'll notice that you have a lot of different options for how to download your file. In this case, we're going to come down to JPEG. All right, so notice that this pops up in my download bar down here. The next thing I can do is go ahead and clear out the information on my slide. So I'm going to go ahead and delete everything I just created. Now I'm stuck with my blank slide again. And all I'm going to do is insert that image that I just downloaded as the slide background. There are multiple ways to do this. The easiest way is probably to come up into your little toolbar at the top here. You'll notice that you have a button that says background. When you click on this, you are prompted to either set a background color or set a background image. In this case, we want to choose an image. Notice that the default is to come to this upload button or this upload tab, and I can either browse my computer for this download, or because I just downloaded it right now, that download is actually located down here at the bottom left of my screen. I can go ahead and click and drag this file up into this space, and notice that it turns blue. Now when I drop it, it's going to go ahead and upload that file as the background. So now as my students come in here, they cannot move around those sorting categories. So the next step would be to go ahead and add those actual sorting topics or sorting items. So I might insert images of living and non-living things. I might insert text boxes, something that the students can manipulate and drag around. Now, this is great, and it's a really awesome way to set the background, but here's the problem with setting the background by downloading the slide as an image. Now I cannot come in and change anything. So if I realize I've made a mistake or I forgot to add something, I have to pretty much start all over. So I'd have to recreate the slide first, change or add whatever I wanted to add, and then download it again. So it's a lot of work to do that. So instead of taking those steps to insert the background like this, if I know that it's something I might want to manipulate later, I'm actually going to choose a different method. And so this is tip number 2 for setting your background. Instead of following those steps, I'm just going to go ahead and add a new slide here. Okay. And I'm actually going to create this particular sort using what's called master slides. So up in my menus at the top, I'm going to come over to the one that says slide. And then I'm going to come down towards the bottom where it says edit master. Now, when I edit my master slides here, it's going to allow me to change the actual layout options that I have when I insert a slide. So when I come up here to apply layout right now, these are the preset layouts that come with every Google Slides presentation. We're going to go ahead and either manipulate one of these or create our own to set as the background. So I'm going to come, like I said, to edit master here. You'll notice that the background will turn black. That's how you know you're editing the master slide. But notice that all of the tools and features that you had before are still there. So I'm going to come down towards the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of my, my face here so that we can see the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to come down towards the bottom. I'm just going to select the last one. And the only reason why I'm selecting the last one is so that when I insert a new one, it will pop it in underneath. So to insert a new layout, we're going to do what we would do to insert a new slide. When I come over to the plus button here, notice that instead of saying new slide, it says new layout. And when I click that plus, it's going to go ahead and pop in that new layout right underneath the last slide I had selected. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the information that it pops into the slide. So I just selected and deleted it. And now I can go ahead and set up those sorting categories just like I want them. So I'm going to follow those same steps as before. I'm going to insert a shape, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and format that shape like I want it. It's going to be a little different than the other one, but that's okay. Okay, and then I can even come in and label this shape. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to set my font and my size the way I want it. Okay, and then I can come and label it. Okay, there's my living one, and I'm going to copy this so that I have a duplicate. I don't have to reset all of those things, and I'll label this one non-living. Okay. All right, so now I have my sorting categories created. Everything looks good. All I need to do to get out of the master slides editing view is to click the little X in the top right-hand corner here. Okay, and now I have this slide here. I'm just going to change the layout of this slide. So I'm going to come into my toolbar here and I'm going to come up to layout and notice that the one that I just created is now an option. When I choose this, this is now the background of the slide. Notice that I cannot move anything around. But here's the cool thing. So that works the same way as the one before, but the advantage to using master slides is that if I realize that I made a mistake or I want to add something to this particular slide layout, I can come in and edit it, and it will make those changes live. So all I'm going to do to edit it is go back into that slide menu at the top and come down to Edit Master. Okay, I'm going to find the layout I'd like to change. And let's say that I really want to use the vocabulary terms from our unit. So instead of calling it living, I'm going to call it biotic. And my non-living one is going to be called abiotic. Okay. And now when I close out of master slides, it will automatically update that slide to mimic what I just put. So that's a really cool way to come in and now change it. And it's a nice way to make sure that you are creating slides, backgrounds that are the most relevant to your students. So it's a really awesome tool there. And now, like I said before, all I would do is come in and add those little interactive features. So if I wanted to add images for them to sort or text boxes or whatever it might be, those I would add in the regular editing view because those are the pieces that I do want my students to be able to move around and manipulate. So they'll be able to move any images I put, but they cannot move around or change the background. All right, so that is how to set the background of your slides. So again, two different methods. The last tip we're going to talk about today is how to change the size of your slide. And so I'm going to come up into my File menu here, and all the way down towards the bottom, you'll find Page Setup. When you click on Page Setup, the default is for it to be widescreen, but we can go ahead and click this little drop-down menu. Notice that there are 3 preset options here, but you also have the ability to set a custom ratio for your page. So I'm going to come down to Custom. And notice that, first off, I can go ahead and put in my own width and height, and I can come and change the units. And so a lot of times this is used to create something that either you're going to print or it's something that you would like to use an actual piece of paper, so maybe a worksheet that you already have as the background. And so that worksheet is already set to the dimensions of 8.5 by 11. So that's the most common way to use that custom. So I'm going to go ahead and mimic that. So I'm going to change my dimensions here to 8.5 by 11. And then when I click apply, notice that my slide changes in size. And so now I'm going to insert a new slide. And I'm going to change my layout just to, I think the blank one is the best. Okay. So now if I wanted to insert my background as maybe one of the worksheets I planned on using, maybe it's something I'm doing with my face-to-face students, but I want my virtual students to be able to access that as well, I can go ahead and get a screenshot or a picture of that particular worksheet. So here's one in my drive that I have. And I want this to be on my slide. So I'm just going to come in. I got to get the whole thing so I can see the whole thing in one view here. And I'm going to come in and I have a couple of different screenshot tools I could use. Everybody's computer should be equipped with what's called the snipping tool. And you can find that by searching your taskbar down here. And I like to just type snipping. So you can use the snipping tool if you wanted to. And then there are also some really awesome Chrome extensions that do this. So I'm going to use the snipping tool because that's the one that everyone has if you're on a Fort Worth ISD laptop. I'm going to click on new here. And now I get this kind of grayed out screen. I'm just going to go ahead and select my entire worksheet. Okay. Oh, and I have a black line. So I'm going to actually reselect because I don't really want that black line on the left-hand side. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to come in just a little bit. I think I still have a black line. Failing miserably. All right, one more time. Third time's a charm. All right, now I shouldn't have it. Okay, perfect. All right, so now I have my little snip of my worksheet. I'm going to save this file. Okay, and you'll want to save it somewhere on your computer where it's easy to find later. For our purposes, I'm just going to put it on my desktop. And you do want to make sure it is an image file. It should save that way automatically, either a PNG or a JPEG. And I'm just going to click save. All right, and now I'm going to come back to my slide, and we're going to use that background button, and we're going to choose image, but this time I'm going to browse my computer and I'm going to find that file where I saved it. So in this case, I put it on my desktop. So I'm just going to find graphing inequalities, and I'll click open. And now notice that that worksheet fills my background, and it looks nice because I changed the size of my slide ahead of time to be the size of a piece of paper. And now I can come in and add those interactive components. So I could come in and add text boxes, or in this case, I might give them those lines that they would have to draw on their graph. So I could give those to them ahead of time and they could drag and drop them, or I could just teach them how to use the line tool to create those. But again, this could be something that my students are doing interactively. All right, so that is for our first episode of Tips and Tricks in Google Slides. Again, we talked about 2 different ways to set your background, and then we also looked at how to change your slide size so that we could add something like a worksheet to our background so it would fill nicely and look nice and clear. If you have any questions about any of these tips or tricks, please reach out to your digital learning specialist.